What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick, and I have yet another album review for you, and one that I guess kind of came as a bit of a surprise. I remember hearing that both of these bands I'm going to go over were working on new material, but I feel like that was like 2 days before this actually was released, albeit digitally. But either way, when I saw this was streaming, there was no way in hell that I wasn't going to go over this because I really dig both of these bands. So today we are going to go over the recent split between Worm and Dream Unending, Starpath. This comes out at least digitally on the 20th of October on 20 Buck Spin Records. It will be released the 24th of November in terms of like CDs, tapes, and vinyl. So a little background on both bands. Worm formed in 2012 in Florida. I've been a fan of theirs since Gloomlord. I was absolutely hooked on that, and then the subsequent releases have been awesome, especially that Blue Nothing EP that came out, I believe, last year. And Dream Unending formed in both the US and Canada. That features Derek Vela of Tomb Mold, which, I mean, they showed up with a surprise release this year, so I kind of feel like that's a bit of a theme here. But I'm a fan of both of their albums. We've gone over both of them here on the channel, and both of these bands kind of represent two very different styles of atmospheric death doom. This split kind of like showcases the diversity in terms of like approaching death doom, and you could not get two sonically different sides of the coin, albeit they still have their points where they definitely meet up in terms of the tropes of death doom in general. Now, both sides had different producers too, which I think is really cool because you get, you know, a kind of a vastly different mix for both of them. Dream Unending was actually mixed and mastered by one Arthur Risk, who is perpetually busy. We just brought him up very recently. In fact, very, very recently. And Worm's side was mixed by Steve Decutis. I'm not entirely sure how to say your name. Either way, I think it's cool you have two different producers / engineers working with two different bands here, because what I like about splits is generally you get two vastly different bands, or at least bands that have some similarities, but they approach the style a little bit differently. And that is exactly what we got here. And granted, Worm comes first on the listing of this, but Dream Unending side is the first to play, so we're just gonna go over the Dream Unending side first. They have the first two tracks and the two longest tracks on here. In fact, the opening track is over 12 minutes long, and I believe is the longest track on the album. And it is absolutely gorgeous. It is lush, haunting, atmospheric, almost hypnotic at points. The band blending heavy droning riffs, you know, very cavernous low vocals, and then these beautiful lead melodies and like lush dreamy soundscapes with like synths in the background. It's already something that I absolutely love about this band's sound. It is so immersive. You can just kind of get lost in it. It's like floating on a cloud, except there's like a thing growling at you at the same time. It's kind of an interesting vibe, but overall it really works, and I think these two songs might be some of their best work yet. These are easily the most melodic and expansive songs I think they've done, and they're both very different. The opening track, So Many Chances, you get the lead in with the droning riffs. It's heavy, it's somber, but it's very lush and atmospheric, and the lead melodies on top kind of give it like a light, airy quality, despite, you know, you have these deep guttural roars on there. It has a slow, lumbering start, which you definitely expect from Death Doom, but the melodies really start creeping in. You get some cool, like, more angular riffs. It's almost like listening to, like, I don't know, Death Human at like a quarter of the speed at times. But when you get down to this clean bridge, this long, drawn-out, absolutely beautiful bridge loaded with, honestly, the best lead work I have heard from this band yet. And that is something that I think is definitely carried over from Tomb Mold as well, where the musicianship has definitely stepped up. Like, the lead play is way more nuanced and varied, and that is also carried into Dream Unending. And my God, this bridge is absolutely gorgeous. It kind of drops out almost all the heaviness. In fact, I would say most of this song is instrumental. There are actually very few vocals on this song in terms of like the overall length of it. You have, you know, the giant cavernous death doom growls, and you also have a really good clean vocal break with Phil Swanson, formerly of Sumerlands, doing some, you know, very passionate, very, I don't know, kind of desperate vocals that really match with the vibe, but it's the music that just absolutely takes the cake and is Derek Vela's lead play. This is hands down the best lead play I think I've heard in Dream Unending yet. Generally their sound is more about that lush atmosphere, kind of letting notes drone out and just kind of creating like waves of atmosphere to kind of layer out the sound. This, they kind of like condense it down to like some quieter moments and let the leads really shine. And you get a lot of different styles of lead play. Like you get the big passionate kind of Pink Floyd vibes, which I think I probably said in the last review, if Pink Floyd was a Death Doom band, they would probably sound just like Dream Unending. But you also have like some kind of jazzy leads that come in there. There's a lot of cool acoustic play. In fact, I think this features the most acoustic play I have heard from this band yet, and it is absolutely amazing. It does dip back into like the heavier sound for a little bit and then kind of goes back into another clean section, which peters out into like blues and almost kind of like country, like acoustic licks. And it closes out that song rather beautifully. And don't worry, you still get like some good heavy stuff with the other track, If Not Now, When, which the first thing I thought of was, isn't that like a Incubus album? It is. It's not a cover, which out of morbid curiosity, I would kind of wonder what their take on an Incubus song would be like. It's not this one, and this is definitely the more heavy and riffy one. Like this one brings in all the big doom harmonies. It honestly reminded me a lot of like Paul Bear, albeit with like Death Doom vocals. The vocals are a little bit more prominent on this one. There are still clean sections, but they are more pushed to the wayside in favor of just big open droning riffs and just gorgeous guitar harmonies. And of course the song has great lead work as well, but I think the fact that this one is a little bit riffier and a little bit heavier, and overall this song is just absolutely crushing, and again, Arthur Rust's production on it makes it sound even bigger. I like the big ambient fade out to it. But yeah, the song is massive, it's hooky, it's melodic, but it still has that lumbering heaviness that you expect from Death Doom, and again, lead play is absolutely gorgeous on this side. But we're not rating this side by side, we are rating this all together, so we got to get on to Worm here. And Worm pretty much knows what they're about, and they deliver what I would call the most seasonal side of this split, because this is October, this is spooky season, and they delivered their brand of blackened Death Doom, lots of gothic touches. The synths are just, well, huge and spooky. They have such a great sense of atmosphere, and it's that spooky, gothic, very Halloween-like atmosphere. This band sounds like they should be the house band that plays in Dracula's castle at all times. And their side brings like a little bit more intensity. The songs are a little bit faster. The opening track to their side, Raven's Blood, comes in with double-time drums. You have more blackened riffs and blackened screams, occasionally getting some deeper vocals kind of paired up with that, or isolating both and kind of going back and forth. And when the lead work isn't stealing the show just by being epic and fucking amazing at all times, the synths are the thing that really kind of set the mood. They're very layered, there's a lot of reverb on them. The synths are the thing that kind of gives their side like a setting. Like you kind of visualize where this band is playing, and it's not a studio. You just think of like graveyards and haunted houses and stuff like that, because that is 100% their vibe. But as always, at least in my opinion with Worm, the thing that absolutely steals the show are the absolutely gorgeous leads. Like they are in every sense like just like perfect melodic metal leads. And I've always loved the contrast between the riffs and the lead work. The riffs are generally just downtrodden, miserable, kind of cold and icy at times when they're kind of going more for that black metal vibe. But the leads are generally soaring and epic. Like there's a lot of like Iron Maiden love all over these leads, and you know, lead harmonies. Like the end of Midwinter Tears, it closes like a Maiden song. Like there's even a bit of that gallop. It kind of picks up the speed. And for the most part, again, I think their side is just like a little bit faster than what I'm kind of used to from this. In fact, you have to wait the entire song with Raven's Blood to get down to like a big Death Doom breakdown. But I'm not really complaining here because, again, I'm like thoroughly entertained by their just love of all this classic metal and spooky atmosphere, and kind of doesn't matter what pace they do it because they're doing it exceedingly well. And even outside of lead work, when it comes down to like the guitars in general, you get a good mix of like interesting clean tones, heavier tones, and then harmonies that are playing off of not only the other guitars, but the synths as well. And you even get some cool acoustic guitars on the last track, Sea of Sorrow, which is not an Alice in Chains cover. And once again, this is a band I wouldn't mind hearing their take on that song, just because Well, I think it would be interesting. But again, it's that cool layering with the different sounds, the guitars and such. And Sea of Sorrow has like some of the heaviest sections on there. In fact, there's some really cool, like almost Middle Eastern melodies that pop up in there, giving it, you know, like a, I don't know, Mummy's Tomb sort of vibe, because we got to stick with the horror vibe because that is definitely Worm's side here. Now, while I really like the guitar work, I have to say the mix sometimes doesn't do, at least the rhythm guitars, a lot of favors. There are points where this is so layered with, again, vocals, you know, and two different kinds of vocals, lead play, synths, that the rhythm guitars occasionally get drowned out and the bass kind of just turns into like kind of low-end mud, like it's very indistinct. But in comparison to Dream Unending side, there's definitely a lot more open space on Dream Unending side. Worm is definitely more dense and foggy and murky, and that kind of fits with their vibe. So I can kind of understand that, but I really would have liked to have heard the rhythm guitars have like just a little bit more punch in the mix. Sea of Sorrow is probably the one that I think like the big riffs really kind of shine out, especially at the end. It kind of goes for like a full bore, like 80s horror vibe. Like it just has that 80s horror kind of guitar riff to it. And that really cool chimey lead at the end is just like the perfect closer to it. And yeah, this split is absolutely awesome. This was a pretty welcome surprise. Again, I like both bands, and I think both bands are doing their thing exceedingly well. I have to say, I think Dream Unending is really pushing some, you know, cool boundaries in terms of, you know, expanding their sound more. And Worm is just killing it, doing what Worm does, albeit maybe like a little bit faster this time. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. I dig it. I think the mixes are really solid for the bands. Again, I would like to hear a little bit more prominent guitars on Worm's side, but I kind of get like it's the murky, foggy, dense sound and everything's supposed to be muddy and evil sounding, and that works. That totally works for them. But honestly, Dream Unending kind of stole the show for me here. I already love their sound, and I just think that these 2 songs that they put out here are some of their best pieces of work yet. The lead play on this entire thing is absolutely amazing. I wasn't necessarily expecting like the most lavish lead play from Dream Unending though. Like that was my big surprise in here. Worm almost guaranteed that the leads were just going to absolutely blow my mind, and they did once again. I gotta say, I think this is one of the coolest splits that has come out this year. It really showcases the variety in terms of perspectives and approaches to Death Doom, and it showcases 2 bands, I would say, at the top of their game right now. If you're a big fan of, I guess, like atmospheric Death Doom in general, check out the split. You're going to get a lot of cool stuff on both sides. If you enjoy Pink Floyd, but you also want like Death Doom, that is 100% Dream Unending. You'll love it. And if you love your Death Doom spooky, gothic, and very much in the spirit of Halloween, it is 100% Worm. Just go pre-order this because it's not out yet. It won't be out until November, but you can at least stream it now. But I'm going to pre-order this like not too long after I shut off this camera. So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below, thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel. But thrallsmetal.com has our store in it. That is where you can find our cool new shirts, our old shirts, which are discounted now, and some hats. So yeah, if you want some Thrall stuff, that is exactly where to find it. And of course, thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that shit. It means the world to us. It's awesome seeing this channel grow. We finally have a date for the Judas Priest ranking, at least I think, as long as everything goes smoothly. I'm looking forward to that one, even though I imagine editing that is going to take forever because that's a lot of albums to go over, but we'll have that out hopefully soon. And of course, more reviews, collection updates, all that stuff. Yeah, we're going to keep you as entertained as we possibly can. So one more big thank you, and we will catch you later.